And I thought, like, this is probably how people, in their 90s feel. Like, why am I feeling this horrible?
Cindy, how did you find carnivore?
Well, Dave, it was actually kind of a strange story. I was actually looking into information for my husband. So he had had a bit of a health scare, and the doctors put him straight onto statins and blood pressure medication. And he had asked them, is there lifestyle changes I can do instead? I don't really want to be on these pills. And they're like, no, absolutely not. You're going to be on these forever. And he wasn't very happy, and I wasn't very happy for him. So I started looking into information for him to do with cholesterol and blood pressure. And eventually, so a friend of mine had recommended a book by Dr. Peter Attia, who spoke about metabolic health, exercise, etc. And I started watching some YouTube videos of his interviews, and it got me onto Dr. Mark Hyman. And then one day I'm watching an interview with Dr. Hyman and this other doctor, and I forget her name, and they were talking about metabolic health and insulin resistance. And one of them said, polycystic ovaries, which is what I have, is caused by insulin resistance. And I was shocked because I'd never been told this before. And in fact, when I first got diagnosed about 15 years ago, I was told kind of the opposite relationship. So my doctor said, "Oh, you've got these, PCOS, and you're probably going to get diabetes." And I was really shocked. And she goes, "And you're yeah, exactly." And I was really shocked. And she said, "Oh, and you've got pre-diabetes now." But she didn't explain anything to me what that meant. So I thought, oh, well, I'm not diabetic. But if I keep going this way, I will be diabetic. And my HDL at the time was just on the borderline. So it was kind of low, but just. And I said, well, what can I do about this? And she said, there's nothing you can do. It's hereditary. She said, yeah. So I was quite horrified by that. And then her advice was to take metformin. And she said, buy a calorie counting book. She said, start counting your calories. She said, try and have below, and I can't remember exactly the amount, 17 or 1800 calories a day. And I was quite skeptical about that because I knew I didn't eat that many. So I started counting my calories. I was fine. Yeah, so that was it. And then every so often I'd get my blood tested, and none of the doctors mentioned anything about blood sugar level being too high or anything like that. So I thought, oh well, I avoided getting diabetes. I'll just keep going the way I'm going. And then when I saw that video by Dr. Hyman saying about insulin resistance, I didn't really know anything about that other than that people who are diabetic take insulin. I don't think I even knew that insulin resistance was a thing. Um, so I started looking into that, and I found out all this food that we thought was healthy, such as, potatoes, sweet potatoes, long grain rice, oats, all these things were high in carbs and convert to sugar. So that was pretty eye-opening, and that it was this cause, the sort of related to the insulin resistance. And so that kind of started both of our journeys. So then I started seeing all these videos by these other doctors like Dr. Westman, Dr. Ekberg. I eventually got onto your videos, where you were talking to people. I started learning all about um, how harmful it is to have really high carbs. And yeah, I think especially for people who might be predisposed to it, but I think for anybody. So about a year ago, so this was about a year ago that I saw this video with Dr. Hyman. And so I kind of started off a bit gradually lowering my carbs. Um, and I actually started to feel better right away. Um, and so it's been about a year now. And my husband started about 9 months going low carb. He wasn't as low carb as me. And it's been really amazing. It's been transformative, actually. Because the other thing that happened was in the last few years, I'd been gradually creeping up with my weight for at least 15 years, just a gradual creep. And in the last few years, it started to come on really full on, and I really didn't understand why. Um, I tried everything. We started going more vegetarian meals. I started eating. I thought I was doing a good thing eating Impossible meat burgers. Just trying to do everything that I thought was right. I'm like, we got to go more vegetarian. We got to reduce fat, et cetera, et cetera. This was like before I found out about keto, and my weight just kept getting bigger and bigger. And everyone's going, oh, well, it says you're getting older, especially for women, they lose their waist, they get thicker around the middle, and everyone's brushing it off. And I saw my doctor a few years ago, and he did a scope, and he said there's a bit of inflammation in your stomach. And that was it. So sort of like take up running, which I now know that's not really how address stomach inflammation. I know now that that was to do with what I was eating and the seed oils as well. I didn't know about seed oils, how bad they are. Yes, so then this year has really been just getting my health back. It's been really amazing. So avoiding seed oils. Um, we do intermittent fasting as well, learned about that. So we'll have lunch and dinner usually. Um, but yeah, I feel a lot better. The weight's been gradually coming off all year. So I've lost uh, over 50 pounds, which is about 23 kilos. And it's been actually about a kilo a fortnight, a pound a week ish, pretty steady. So it's been really steady. I'm still dropping weight. And I feel that when my body's happy with my weight, it's going to plateau, which is fine by me. I've got my waist back, which makes me so happy. I'm wearing clothes that I haven't been able to fit for, 15 years. It's been really good. And the other thing too, so when I started to gain all this weight, and which was really baffling, I didn't get it. I wasn't eating a lot of junk food and stuff like that. Um, I was getting really stiff and sore as well. So I'd get up in the morning, get out of bed. I felt terrible. I would be really stiff. I'd be achy. My feet would hurt. It would take me a while to warm up. And I thought, like, this is probably how people, in their 90s feel. Like, why am I feeling this horrible? Um, and then I started getting arthritis back in my knee. So I had it as a child, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And I used to get fluid buildup in my knee, and it was really extremely painful. I'd have to go to hospital to get it drained and that. And so in the last couple years, it started coming back. I started getting the fluid starting up on my knee again, and it was hurting. And we live in a 3-story townhouse, so you can imagine that's fun. And I went to see my doctor, and he checked my knee out, and he said, "Yeah, your arthritis is coming back." Uh, since I've been on keto, that has gone away. I'm actually really shocked. The fluid's gone, virtually completely gone. My knee is limber again. I get out of bed and I feel really good. So, I feel like a normal person again. I get out of bed. I'm not achy. I'm not stiff. I just get out. I get up. I feel good. So it's been really amazing, and I just uh I just wish more people knew about it and realized, because we all got taken in. It's quite funny because I had even said to my husband, he loves pork crackling, and like, don't eat that. That's really bad for you. And we gotta, and you've got to go to, low fat milk and all this stuff. And I was off base about it all, as I've learned. Yeah.
Yeah, but we all have been, right? I remember shouting at my dad in a restaurant one time because he was putting salt on, like just so much salt on his meat. And I'm like, like, stop doing this. You haven't even tried it yet, And it's like, well, I was wrong, He wasn't, he was
Yeah.
eating steak, which is good, and he was putting salt
Yeah.
on it, which is just normal. But
Yeah.
we've all been indoctrinated, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. When I did what I thought was the right thing by going, my husband actually started drinking the oat milk, which I've since found out is really bad, because I was so worried. This was at the beginning stage before I found out everything about keto and carnivore. And I was so worried for him. And oh, by the way, he stopped doing almost because he didn't like taking those pills, and he stopped taking them. His blood pressure has gone back down, like he's got good, yes, and his triglycerides have halved, and mine have dropped from a bit high to quite normal. Mine are zero point 0.7 now, and my triglyceride to HDL level is really low. It's um, Dr. Mason. Do you know Dr. Mason from Low
Yeah.
Carb Down Under? Yeah, he says have it below like zero point 0.9 and below, and mine is 0.57, I think. Zero point 0.7.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. So I'm really happy. And my husband his was really high, 2.88, and now it's down to 0.93. So I mean, it's had a really good effect on both of us. And, he was like, we didn't realize it was creeping up on him, sort of that is, the health issue, because he's tall, he's 6'1", and he's, slim build. So that was a really big shock for us. Yeah. And so for him, his numbers have come down so well. Like his numbers, and his HDL's gone up considerably as well. So it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. I'm laughing because just before you mentioned oat milk, I'm just like oat milk, soy milk. I mean, soy milk's big in Japan, yeah, but oat milk, soy milk, almond milk. I don't know how they can get away with calling that milk. It
Oh.
must be really expensive to milk those oats. It's
Yeah.
to me it's like squeezing the dishwater out of a sponge and calling it juice. It's like, well,
It's
it's not,
true.
obviously it's not juice, but because the action was the same as an orange, it's juice apparently. It's
Yeah, I
yeah.
wondered that too. Yeah.
Uh, but so at this stage, like PCOS, what's the status with that now?
I don't know. I haven't gone back to get tested, which I have some follow-up tests to do. So I haven't done that. I've done my blood work. I can tell I feel better. I used to get a lot of pain, and I'm not getting that. So I used to have pain that would wake me up during the night, and I'm not getting that. So that's definitely improved as well. And oh, the other blood thing I didn't mention. So you know how they've vilified LDL, and oh, it's bad if it's high. And so I wanted to get the particle size tested because I heard that there's different particle sizes, as you know, and I wanted to get it tested. There's a lab here in Australia that does it. Um, and so I was really happy because most of my LDL is in the big size, the big fluffy kind. And so they said I'm a pattern A. I had a little bit in the third size, very small amount, but it was in the healthy range. And then I had nothing of the four smaller sizes, which is really good. So thanks. Um,
Awesome. So, you mentioned keto before. So, are you basically you're doing pretty much about 20 grams of carbs a day, or are you moving closer to carnivore as time goes, or how are you working it?
Yeah, I definitely try to stick to 20 and less a day. Some days I'm more ketovore, uh so my husband eats a bit more vegetables than me, and we both cook different times. So he tends to cook more vegetables than me. If I'm cooking for myself, it's usually straight carnivore. Um, but I'm thinking of trying carnivore just because, I want to see if that kind of moves things along even quicker. Because I found out that so if you've had seed oils all your life and you've had these metabolic issues, that have caused things like the PCOS, the insulin resistance, I heard, especially for women, that it can take about 2 years before your system goes back to normal. So I'm sort of halfway there, and I thought would carnivore push me that extra bit further. So, but yeah, at the moment, I definitely try to stay under 20. I usually do stay under 20, maybe the odd little cheaty day, which is very rare. It's more like if you have a get together, and it's sort of hard to, when you're away from home, control how many carbs you get. Um, do you find that as well?
No, I just decided I'm happy being, like the grumpy old, acting like the grumpy old man kind of thing, So if someone offers me something, I'm just like, no, I'm not. I don't eat that or whatever. It's almost like I've got to the point where I'm wearing this guy's a weird outsider kind of thing. I'm wearing that as a medal of honor kind of.
It's it's
Yeah.
funny, isn't it? 'Cause people don't understand. A lot of people just don't get it. They're like, but you gotta have your vegetables. It's like my mom for a while. Uh, she was very skeptical about what I was doing at first. I think so. I saw her last year, and then I saw her this year, and so she's seen the transformation from a year ago to less than a year, just a few months ago. So she's coming around. Like I've actually been. Hopefully she's really doing this. She's starting to have like the full cream yogurt without sugar. She's having a few more eggs, and I'm like, eat good saturated fat. You have to have good saturated fat. Reduce your sugar. She's doing all that, which is good. She stopped having bread, which I'm really happy about. Um, and trying to get my dad there too, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I think on the point you were mentioning about carnivore, maybe it'll speed things up, or um, I think I've had 20 odd years of being on
Yeah.
and off low carb or keto, and I know what it does to my body, and it always makes me feel better when I've been low carb or keto. Um, but then getting to the point where I was carnivore, it's just like it's just been a whole new level. And I mean,
No.
I drank, even that was drinking coffee for the most part as well, so it wasn't 100% carnivore, it wasn't pure carnivore, but um yeah, it's just the difference is out of this world,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's time saving.
yeah, true. I do like that aspect that you just have to
Hmm.
worry about, cooking one thing or, some eggs as well. Um, I really do like that. Yeah, I thought, oh, there's so many things coming up that I might wait until right after Christmas to do carnivore. But I was thinking I said to my husband, I said, I'd like to do maybe several days a week of carnivore and then just maybe a couple days of keto. Um, just to try and ease into it. I know some people do it cold turkey. They go straight in a carnivore and they don't seem to last that long if they do it straight in, but some people do. It's,
I
yeah,
think the approach of doing a few days carnivore and then just going back to your regular kind of keto or ketovore is it's probably a good way to do it. Because I mean, it's not like you're going to be suffering symptoms because you've been eating this way for a year.
yeah.
What might happen is you might go, you know what? Those few days that I'm doing just carnivore are way easier than the other days, and so it'll naturally become something that you end up preferring to do.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's probably going to happen. You don't very often hear about people who do full carnivore who suddenly revert back to high carbs or medium carbs. You rarely hear about that. Usually, people who go carnivore, they feel so good, they just stick with it. And if they do jump out of it for a while, they feel rotten and they go back in. So, yeah.
Yeah. See, you mentioned your mum being a little bit like, what's going on? You need your vegetables. But like, um, how about other people around you?
Um, My dad's trying to get there. He's got quite a few health issues and he's really trying. He's like, I'm about 80%. He goes, 20%, carbs and sugar. And he's like, baby steps. I'm like, okay, dad, just please keep trying. Well, one of my friends, her husband is a carnivore, and she tried keto for a while and she didn't like it. But I've been sort of working on her. She's in her mid 30s. And, I said, if I knew then what I know now, I would absolutely be doing it at your age. And so she's trying it again. And I'm just there for her support system. to encourage her. I'm really proud of her. And uh, my husband has some friends that they've kind of been shocked by the transformation of both of us. And they're like, oh, maybe there's something to this low carb. Because the other thing too is I used to get very puffy. My face would puff up. So it was, and my arms, I get puffiness, and that's gone right down or maybe disappeared. So they're seeing things like that. When you see someone sort of, get back to their normal, like, this is the weight that I was when they first knew me. Um, I think that we're having a good influence on people. People still kind of don't get it. It's like, oh yeah, but I'm just having some potatoes. And it's like, well, potatoes, it turns into sugar. And, but people are trying. And, I'm always,
Yeah.
if you don't want to preach at people, but you just want to go, well, it's worked for me, and if you want to talk about it, I'm happy to
Yeah.
to do.
It's quite it makes quite an impact on people when, they see you and they realize, wow, you're looking good. And then they also realize you're acting younger than when, like, younger and more energetic than I've ever seen you
Yes,
before, right?
yes, someone said that to me. When I was in Canada, they said you've got more Oh no, actually, it was here. Someone said you've got more vibrancy again. Like you've got kind of that. What I used to have before I got kind of tired and puffy, and I felt terrible. And yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. And you feel it yourself. I feel so much better. And yeah.
So in Canberra, how is it like getting things like meat and stuff like that, being so close to the political heart of Australia? Is there any kind of more of a plant-based push than there might be in other places?
You would think so, but not really. So we get grass-fed beef delivered. I can't think of the company, but they're a really good company. And then we go to Aldi and we get grass-fed beef from Aldi. And if we see it at Coles, Aldi's probably the best value. And we've there's a really nice farm, a local farm that has got like really nice free range eggs. They're like happy little chickens, so you don't feel guilty at all. Really nice stuff. They've got full cream, like beautiful full cream, and a lot of the stores sell full cream because we do have coffee. That's one thing that's going to be hard for me to wean off is coffee. But we have, either bullet coffee with the MC oil, or the coffee with full cream. But yeah, actually, it's not too bad. Eating out, it's kind of hard because there's a lot of Indian and Asian restaurants where a lot of it's rice-based and noodle-based meals. And you walk past and they smell so good, but it's like, nope. Or you go in and you just have like a meat, you get their meat dishes and skip the rice if you're eating out or something.
For you and your husband, this is it. There's no going back.
No, absolutely not. Uh, I absolutely would never ever go back. And he won't either. You just feel so much better. Uh, just going for hikes and things like that. When I wasn't feeling very good before I found out about keto, and my weight had kept going up, I'd go up to the top floor and I'd be, wheezing and gasping. I'd be out of breath. And that worried me. I'm thinking, am I going to keel over any second? Like that was a really big concern for me. And I
In
had
your
no
own
idea.
house, that's a bit of a
Yeah,
worry, right?
it was. And I'd never been that way because I've always been an active person. Always. I love riding my bike. I love going for walks. I used to love to go swimming, everything. And then as you feel worse, your activities become a little bit limited because, you're hurting and stuff like that. So just to feel how I used to 20 years ago, and just have that energy and, be able to do things, not get winded. And yeah, it's just, I could never go back. And not just for the weight loss and the fitness and all that, just knowing that it was damaging my health so much. When you learn about, the inflammation, and you learn about all the horrible things that it can lead to. Um, from, it's all related, the insulin resistance, the inflammation, the bad diseases. Last year, there were three people that I know, including a very good friend and my aunt that I was really close to, who died from cancer. And, I can't help but think, was it to do with, inflammation, insulin resistance? I don't want to speculate, but, you can't help but think that because it's all related. So, there's a lot of incentive to keep going with it. When I had that blood work done by that private lab, I found out that I've got elevated lipoprotein small a, which is completely hereditary. So that is hereditary. You cannot change your numbers apparently, but you can influence the damage it does to you because it puts you at higher risk for heart disease and strokes and things like that. So I can't lower the number, but I can lower my risk from it by keeping my LDL big and fluffy, try and boost up my HDL, keep my triglycerides low. So that is another incentive for me. So I had the incentive for my health before, but then when I found that out, and I only just found that out a couple weeks ago, it was like, oh wow, like I really have to. My husband's got normal levels of that, so he doesn't have that particular incentive, but he wants to just feel good. Like he just wants to stay feeling good and, keeping everything clear and healthy.
Yeah, it's so interesting when we start to work this stuff out and we realize we have so much more control over this stuff or influence over this stuff than
Yeah.
we just other in our previous lives we just think it's all part of the genetic lottery. I'm either lucky or I'm not, right?
Yeah, 100%. And exactly that. Like when I'd be talking to, friends at work, I'd be going, oh, my waist is gone. I don't know how to get my waist back. Oh, that's just your age. That's just as you get older. It just happens. And this happens and that happens. And, diabetes runs in my family. Oh, well, you're just going to get diabetes. And it's like, no, you don't have to get all these things. You can control it exactly like you said. It's really amazing when you realize you've got that level of control of your own health. Not 100%. Like there's going to be factors that come in. You can't avoid all pesticides. You can't avoid all seed oils if you're traveling, stuff like that. But yeah, you can make a big difference.
And that's where I know for me personally, that's where it becomes frustrating when then you go back to the doctor and the doctor is just acting like it is part of the lottery, the best we can do is just give you this medication to cover the thing up and then,
Yeah.
hopefully we'll extend your life as long as possible kind of thing.
Yeah, I've got a really nice family doctor, and he never once told me about insulin resistance because I don't think he sort of knows that connection either about, what you eat converting to sugars when it's, a potato or something like that. Yeah, so it's quite eye-opening. Um, and you just wish that you could get that. People I think are starting to more and more are starting to realize. I've heard that that kind of thing is starting to become better known. But
Yeah. So if one of your friends came to you and said, "Okay, look, Cindy, I'm into this. I'm going to do this. You're looking better. You've got so much energy. I want some of that for myself." What advice would you give them?
I would tell them to think whole foods. So I would say I would just explain about carbohydrates, how starches and uh, grains and all that convert to sugar, which leads to insulin resistance, etc., and inflammation. I would just, encourage them to stick with healthy saturated fats. If they want to eat lots of vegetables, eat cruciferous vegetables. Kind of have a look at, so we stick mainly to cabbage and cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, that kind of thing. Um, I would say to go easy on themselves. So, it wasn't instant keto for me. It wasn't instant low carb for my husband. It was kind of a little bit gradual in the beginning because we're still getting our head around it. Like you were saying, we've been taught for so long, saturated fat is really bad for you. And, oh, you need all this fiber and you believe it. And then you start learning about all the studies that debunk it. And, so I'd say go easy, avoid seed oils at all costs, avoid sugar, just stop eating, maybe, okay, we do occasionally have 95% dark chocolate because that's got a little bit of sugar in it for a treat, but generally we had a friend that made us or had this really lovely dessert. So we had it. This is when we were in Canada. And we both felt terrible afterwards. It was just like this sugar hit. It was awful. So I would say, don't have your sugar. Don't beat yourself up if you go backwards a little bit. That's going to happen in the early days. But I just say, as you keep going, you're going to feel better and better. And the incentive to keep going will be there because you feel better, because you're feeling better, you're looking better. You won't want to have this stuff, and your taste buds change too, because the biggest thing I hear, I can't give up sugar, I love sugar so much. It's like your taste buds will change. You'll be able to taste the sweet in something like 95% dark chocolate, or even your vegetables like your cauliflower or whatever. You start tasting those flavors. You don't want, like, if someone, I love carrot cake normally. If someone put a carrot cake in front of me, I wouldn't be tempted to eat it because it would be so sweet to me now. And also, I would just be thinking about the bad things that it would be doing to me. So you don't want it
Right.
after a while. And I think that's what people need to know is they just need to start gradual. Like that's what I told my friend. I said, don't beat yourself up, be kind to yourself, do it gradually. And you'll eventually get to the stage where you don't want to go back. You don't want that sugar and that
Yeah,
cake.
eventually you just break that emotional tie that you have with the food, like the carrot cake you're talking about. You can sit and you can look at it sitting on the table. 2 years ago, like that would I wouldn't have. I would have been like, when the frog's tongue comes out and grabs something or whatever. I would have been like that with the carrot cake. But now it's just like I look at it like that's poison now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
you see it differently. You go through a grocery store and you used to shop, well, you would know this, like you used to shop all the aisles, get stuff here and there. And now 95% of what's in the grocery store isn't for us. Like we just look at it and go, ooh, ooh, ooh. Like you just see it. You just see chemicals and sugar and seed oils and bad stuff. You just know. It's like, well, you might as well, you've got as much nutrition as eating the cardboard box it comes in. So.
Right. And probably eating the cardboard box, there's probably less poison in the cardboard box than there is in the contents.
Yeah, right. There's no seed oils.
Right. No flavor enhancers in the cardboard, so you're probably going to
That's
do
right.
better. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, do you have any social media, Cindy, if people want to reach out to you?
Uh, I'm on Facebook. Oh, well, probably Instagram. I have an Instagram account that's open. And just I guess my email.
No worries. So I'll include those in the show notes. Cindy, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Dave. It's been really nice to meet you. I've really enjoyed your videos. I thank you for, getting awareness out there. And I know that there can be a bit of the backlash from areas that don't want people being healthy, like some of the food industries and pharmacies and whatnot. So I think it's really great that there's people speaking up and saying, well, if you really want good health, do this and this is the way, and you can prove it yourself. You can look at the research and that. So thank you very much for getting the awareness out there too. And thank you for having me on your show.